It started with the footsteps. At first, Ethan barely noticed them, just faint creaks in the old wood, the kind of noises any house might make when it settled during the night. Caldwell Manor was old, over a century, and he'd expected its fair share of strange sounds. He had inherited it only a week ago, and though he hadn't yet gotten used to its grand but decaying interior, he had convinced himself he could. The manor stood on the outskirts of town, surrounded by thick, gnarled trees that rustled even when the wind was still. Its past was shrouded in rumors, whispers of disappearances, of things seen through the windows at night, of people who stepped inside and never left. Ethan had brushed those off. Every old house had stories. But on the third night, the footsteps became clear. They started at dawn, when the sky was just beginning to lighten, that eerie hour between night and morning where silence should reign. The first time he heard them, he sat up in bed listening. Slow, methodical, one step after another, coming from the staircase. He held his breath, straining his ears. He was alone. He had checked every room before locking up. Yet someone or something was on the stairs. He grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight, creeping toward the bedroom door. The hallway outside stretched into darkness, lined with portraits of people long dead. Their eyes seemed to follow him as he moved. The air felt thick, pressing against his skin. He reached the landing and peered over the railing. The staircase curled downward into the main hall, its wooden steps lost in the shadows. The house was utterly still. No one was there, but as he turned to go back to bed, the sound came again. A single step, just below him. Ethan ran back to his room and locked the door. The next morning, he convinced himself it was nothing. Old houses made noise. Wood expanded and contracted. It was logical, rational. But as the days passed, the footsteps grew louder. Every morning at dawn, they climbed the stairs. Always slow, always deliberate, and always stopping just before reaching his door. He stopped sleeping. The anticipation of the sound kept him awake, eyes wide open, heart pounding. When he finally did drift off, he would wake to the same pattern. Creak, creak, a pause. Then nothing. Something was climbing the stairs every morning, and Ethan was starting to feel like it was coming for him. On the seventh night, he decided to wait for it. He sat in a chair near the door, phone in hand, recording. The house was silent, except for the occasional groan of the wind through the trees outside. Then, at exactly 4:57 a.m., it began. One step, then another. A steady, creeping ascent. Ethan held his breath, gripping the phone so tightly his fingers ached. The footsteps grew louder, until he could hear the weight of each one pressing into the wood. And then they stopped, right outside his door. Silence stretched. Then the handle rattled. Ethan shot up, heart hammering. The door didn't open, but something was there. Something was testing it. He backed away, every nerve in his body screaming at him to run. But there was nowhere to go. The door shook again, this time harder, the wood creaking under the pressure. Then it stopped, and something breathed, right on the other side. Ethan didn't move, didn't breathe. He heard it inhale a slow, rattling sound. Not human, not normal. Then came the whisper, so quiet, so close. "Let me in." The air in the room dropped to freezing. His breath came in frantic gasps. He clutched the phone, fingers numb. The whisper came again, lower, as if whatever was outside was pressing its lips to the wood. You left the door open last time. Ethan's stomach lurched. No, he hadn't. Had he? A sudden creak made his blood run cold. The closet. His head whipped around, and his stomach dropped. The door was open just a crack. Not enough to see inside. Just enough for something inside to see him. A hand shot out from the darkness. White. Thin. Too long. Ethan screamed. He grabbed the nearest thing, a lamp, and hurled it at the closet. The crash sent shards of glass scattering across the floor. The moment the light shattered, everything stopped. Silence. The hand was gone. The door was shut. His breath came in ragged gasps as he scrambled for his phone, fumbling to turn on the flashlight. The room was empty. He ran. Down the hall, down the stairs, through the front door, into the cold morning air. The sun had barely risen, but he didn't care. He never went back inside. Days later, he watched the footage he had recorded that night. The audio played back with perfect clarity. The footsteps, the rattling door, the whisper. But then, just as he had turned toward the closet, there was something else. A voice. Low. Right next to the microphone. Next time, you won't run.